In this in-between video I would like to go through a couple of things. First of all, I'd like to show the joystick controller in its final shape in the module and with a longer stick on the joystick, and just so you can see how it was supposed to look like. I didn't have time, I didn't get the panel in time enough for the last video. So just like to show that and how it's supposed to look and feel. And the overall feel with this longer joystick is so much better. So I'll show that in a bit. I'd also like to go through a proposed change to the schematics that Ananas Man left in the comments of the previous video. And that is to move the offset to the second summing stage and I'll explain why in a bit and how we can do that. So it's a really simple change that does a lot of difference, especially on weak signals. And the next video we are moving on to the next day, so day 12, and that is going to be effects. And the first effect we're going to do there, I've done the module, I haven't got the real panel yet, but here's the panel and here is the DIY spring reverb that I'm going to talk about in that video. So I didn't have time to finish the post-production of this video for this week. That is coming next week. And with that we are on with the effects modules. But there are a few modules that I really wanted to try, or things that I wanted to try in the input section of on day 11, and I'd just like to touch on those things, and maybe there will come a future video on those things just as a side project or something. So I just want to go through those. And then I'd like to make a Tindie store update, and with that also open this package to see what's in there, and it's PCbs that are just came in today. I usually open these packages with my Patreons only, because usually there's a few sneak peeks of modules to come and projects and many things that are never going to come because they don't work and stuff like that. But I thought today I would share that with everyone. So probably a few secrets in there, hopefully not too secret. But with that said, I'd like to say thank you to my Patreons who helped me drive this channel, do all this stuff, and a bit extra today for sharing this special content with everyone on YouTube. I'll finish this video with a few of the sounds, of the first sounds that this module did on the working bench. That was some really interesting textures that I'll show you in the end of this video. But with this said, let's go and start looking at the joystick again. So this is how the module ended up. Still no knobs. There were really long shafts on these potentiometers which I cut off, and one of those really long ones I took and placed on the joystick, which gave the joystick a much better feel. And one of the things that I was worried about was that it wouldn't hold its position, that the stick would be too heavy, but it's definitely is not, and it works very well. So just a bit of hot glue on the joystick down there to get the stick on, and then a dab of hot glue up here just to make it a bit easier to touch, so it's not this really hard plastic cutoff that is on here. Yeah, CV input and outputs for X and Y, and yeah, turned out really good. Still haven't added the LEDs, really isn't that important for the functionality. Alright, so the change to the schematics or the circuit, it was Ananas Man wrote, I built one of those in the past, and if you want to scale a weak signal, the offset gets very, very sensitive. Wouldn't it be better to ditch the inverted output and use the first op-amp for scaling only and the second for the offset? And yes, I wrote back that this is a really, really good idea, and I didn't think of this one. And one of the schematics that I did look at, but I didn't show in the previous video, was the Befaco joystick, because it was a bit extra complicated and I really didn't know what everything was, but they did just that. So I'm still not sure which is which here, but guessing that this could be the axis, so say the x-axis, that is in the first stage of, if we count these two as stages here, it then goes in, and here you have the offset in the second stage, so they do that in 2 stages, and that is really good, because if we have the scale, they don't have the scale here, but if we have the scale here, then we can scale up a really weak signal to a high value, and then we can add the offset after that in this second summing mixer, and that would, it would correlate between the two, the input or the whatever value we have input and the offset much better. Of course, this would be more interesting if we have an input actually, so you have an input that you want to scale and offset, since the joystick value is always the same and never that weak, but if we want it just for the scale and offset, then changing these two would be preferable. So changing this in our schematics is actually quite simple. It is just to take the offset and move that, we have no space here, move that to the second stage like so, and this way it would add this scaled CV with this offset CV. So technically it's just that one cable going from the middle potentiometer of the potentiometer and the 10K to just move that there. So if you know you're going to work with weak signals, that's a really good idea. Thank you, Ananas Man, for that. Thank you for everyone who comments in the sections. It's always nice to have more input, even though it's afterwards. It's always good to have more knowledge anyway. And for everyone else who reads the comments, it's good to know, for them to know your knowledge as well. So one of the modules I really wanted to do, and I actually this week I started building it as well, so this did take up a couple of days, me trying to figure this one out. But over a year ago I actually built a prototype in a live session on my Patreon, and this is a didnt sync or sync 24 input, and the thought was that you could sync TB303 or 606 to the modular to get more playability along with other instruments. Sync 24 technically should be able to be done with just CMOS circuitry, and I kind of got it to work, but it was a bit out of sync in the one that I did a couple of years ago. So I sat down and wanted to have it really in sync, and what you can do is with a 4017 you can divide by you can count to 6 and then reset. So 24 sync 24 is 24 ppq pulses per quarter note. So that means for each quarter note you get 24 pulses. So but by dividing by 6 by counting to 6 and then going back, you would get one every, so you would go down to 4 on every quarter note, and that is for quarter note, 8th note, 16th note, so that would be a 64th note, right? And then divide that, you could divide that with a 4516 or 4520, even more, to come down and get all the divisions that you would like to have. Unfortunately, the 4017, I just can't get that stable enough to get that working, and that took up a lot of time trying to stabilize the 4017. Doing it in the Baby 8 sequencer, I guess it goes slow enough so it can follow along, and it really shouldn't be a problem. I mean, the CMOS circuits should be able to work in way faster than this, but perhaps I missed something. I put this on ice anyway, so it's a project I might get back to, because it would be nice to have a 303, 606, all those. The Volcas can also be used, I think, but then again, as I've said so many times now, once we start with Arduinos and microcontrollers, anything sync or count related is so much easier, so we might just wait until then. Another project I had was, I have this throat microphone that I found in a military supply shop, and I really wanted to have this, try to get this to work. Didn't have time for that. Maybe it's probably not that difficult. It's probably just a normal mic, hopefully, and we do have the guitar input, and maybe this could work to just connect into the guitar input. Still on my to-do list, but day 11 inputs and controls was a good day for that one, for me to work with that one. And the third thing that I really wanted to try out was all these flimsy, cheap keyboards that you find them in thrift stores and junkyards everywhere. It's just like really plasticky. None of the controls work. Some do, most doesn't. Inside there's this simple just resistor ladder going up, and I thought that this could be possible to make into a CV keyboard, and also I really wanted to try that, but maybe it's a bit far-fetched, and well, I ended up not doing that either. So these will just have to lie around a while longer while I think about doing something like that. So just a few projects that didn't come to fruition on day 11. Alright, the moment I've been waiting for a whole week. So ordering PCBs is always fun, and it's always fun to see how they turned out, as quite often they don't turn out as I'd like, but that is part of the charm, I guess. But this is quite special because I know I have a really special panel in this one that I don't even understand how they fit in this small package, but I guess we'll see. Loads of packaging material. Diagonal. So this is also Tindie store update. I've ordered PCBs and I've ordered components, but components, so I'm out of stock on almost everything in the Tindie store, and because the components to the PC power supply is really long delivery time, so I have to wait a couple of weeks more until I can fill up most of the stuff. There's a few things in here that hopefully makes it possible to fill up some stuff. For example, this is the power supply, the small power supply, the first one I did, that I know a lot of people is waiting for. And I hopefully have fixed all the silk screen issues that was on this one. So this will be up in the store again, which it hasn't been in a long time. So that's good. There should also be, here is 100. I ordered 100 simple mixers. So here's 100 front panels and 100 panels or PCBs. So hopefully this will keep me going for quite a while. I did not buy all the components all at once for this though. That would be hugely expensive with all those potentiometers. So, but there'll be a couple in the store at least in a couple of days or soon. And here we have an interesting module. So this is the next module after the spring reverb. So I'm not saying anything more than that. It's not that much, it's just simplifying a tedious work. More Touch Me Nows, which was out of stock, and also I did fix there was one trace error here which didn't affect the usability that much, but it was there, it is fixed. Now this is interesting. So this is actually, this is a whole 19-inch rack panel that I've ordered. And might be quite easy to understand that this is supposed to be a kind of patch bay. So I've never understood the patch bays that have all the 2 jacks on the front and 2 on the back. I understand them, but I don't understand the use of them. I never use the second jack, I only use 1 jack on the front. So this is the front, and then you have the back. Here, and those two, hopefully these holes should align. So with a few screws there and there, and they do not seem to align very well. That's not good. Oh well. And then in between we have 20 of these little panels. So there should be 1 there and one front, two back, and when you sandwich this together, hopefully it will not be as flimsy as it is right now. But yeah, it's a huge PCB, so I mean it must be a bit flimsy. And this is, of course, I'll show you. So I'm thinking of having one of these at the end of each of these 3 rows, to have all the rack panels come down here, route into the mixer. But if I do have something else, I can just insert it here and get that in, instead of having to go in behind and start messing about. So I just wanted to try to make my own patch bay that's somehow more abides to my needs, something like that. So with this said, I'm going to leave you now with some sounds that the spring reverb did the first time I put it on. It's just a sinus wave going in, and then just all these artifacts that start to play around. So enjoy, and I'll see you next week. Bye. Take care. Bye.